So last week we started to, was it 2 weeks already? Last week we introduced part 2 of inner space. Right? The way that Rabbi Kaplan did it is after 13 chapters, he started part 2, meditation and prophecy. So part 2 is a separate set of classes. So like we say in the introduction, we didn't want to publish it as a separate book because without the first part of the book, nobody will understand it at all. Even now, it's a little bit advanced, but it's at least somewhat understandable. So, so this is like a very interesting, and we're doing with a lot of prayer to be able to go into his what he says about nevuah and meditation, and his whole thing is that meditation, Jewish meditation, leads to nevuah. The whole purpose of Jewish meditation, of a Jew meditating, is to be in the state of nevuah. So even if we don't have, as the p.14 says, the p.14, Rav Kalman Shapira of Varsha, as he said, he wrote a sefer called Mevo HaSharim. Mevo HaSharim. This is for you. Sit on that side. Yeah, you can sit closer if you want, but sit on this side. So the p.14 makes a big point of the idea that we don't have nevuah now, but we have avodat nevuah. We have the work, the inner work of nevuah. That doesn't stop. And that essentially is what the Nevi'im were trying to do, and he brings a beautiful quote from Chaim Vital, from the Hakdama to Shari Kedusha. What the Nevi'im were trying to do was to get closeness to Hashem. Telling the future is secondary. Is only a byproduct. So he quotes Chaim Vital in the beginning of the Hakdama of Shari Kedusha. That Kol Yamehem nidbeku bekonam, nidbeku dveikut. They had dveikut with the Hashem. Ubeimsaut hadveikut hahu. And through their connection to Hashem, Rabbi Chaim Vital writes in Shari Kedusha, right? Through their connection with Hashem, Sharta Alim Ruach HaKodesh. That's how Ruach HaKodesh came down on them. Lohorotam Eze HaDerech Yishkon Or, to show them and to direct them and to guide them where the light is. Laha'ir Einehim Berazei Torah, in order that they should become enlightened with the secrets of the Torah. So the p.14 says that the avoda is still what it's all about. So this is very much what Rabbi Kaplan is into. That he's really going. I always used to say that the subtitle or the alternate title of Inner Space is the mind of Aryeh Kaplan. Because he took ideas and put them together and took them apart and put them together and took them apart. In order to really understand how Torah works, that's what you have to do. You have to be able to mold yourself to how ideas work. And then you flow with the ideas, and then the Torah becomes internalized and integrated into you. So we're going to go in the next few weeks into what he calls the Dream Center. First of all, I want to say that after the bus tragedy Sunday night, in which 6 Yehudim were killed, and I don't know the whole story, whatever. But the fact is that they were killed. So I wanted to say that, what does it mean to learn Torah in a world where things like this are happening? So I brought in this little text that I haven't given you. Something I wrote in one of my books called The Well of Living Waters. It was about the name Raze Olam. It happened, it's like this, that there was a great rabbi around 800 years ago, Rabbi Eliezer Migarmiza, Rabbi Eliezer of Worms, and he was called the Rokeach, and he was a Baal Ruach HaKodesh. And in 1936, when this book was being republished in Europe, the book is called Sodi Razi by Rev Eliezer Migarmiza. Sodi Razi. And it's Hilchot Malachim, Hilchot Nevuah, Hilchot Kisei HaKavod. It's a very interesting book. It was just republished recently. The laws of the Kisei HaKavod, the laws of Nevuah, the laws of this, and a lot of what the Ari says in Sha'ar Ruach HaKodesh is from Rabbi Eliezer Migarmiza. So, though not a simple thing, who he was. So in 1936, there was a young man who was publishing this book in the middle of the Shoah. And that young man's father lived in Eretz Yisrael in 1936. And that father, his name was Yekutiel Kamilhar. Yekutiel Kamilhar. I don't know how to pronounce it. That's the best I can do. And he was a Chacham Atzum. He wrote a book called Mada'eh HaTevel, through the Talmud or something like that. And he showed how in the Talmud, even though the names have changed and we've advanced and progressed in certain ways in science, but everything that we have nowadays was already with the sages of the Talmud. That's one book he wrote. Another thing he did is he wrote the introduction to the publication of his son's republication of Sodi Razi. I don't want to mix anybody up, right? Rav Kamal here wrote the introduction to his son's publication of an 800-year-old book. And he says, he quotes a verse that says, that Moshe Rabbeinu says, Rab lachem sovet ahar hazeh, pinu lachem tzfona. You've encamped around this mountain long enough, turn to the tzafon. So he said, the Midrash says, what is tzafon? Tzafon means hidden. The mountain that's being referred to in the verse in Devarim chapter 2 is Mount Seir, which means Esav. So tzafon, turn to the tzafon, is turn to the hidden. If you see that man, Esav, trying to provoke you, don't just stand there, hide from him. But then Rabbi Yehuda bar Simon said, Israel says to the Holy One, Master of the world, Esav's father blessed him, live by your sword. And you agreed with him, and now you tell us to go and hide from him? Where shall we run and hide? The Holy One answers them, run to the Torah. Wherever you see the word tzafon, it doesn't mean just hide. It means the hidden parts of the Torah. So this man, this Rabbi Kamal here writes, thus did they say and thus did they do. They ran to the Torah, especially the Sitrei Torah, the secrets of the Torah. To fulfill the simple meaning of the verse, turn to the tzafon, turn to the hidden and concealed teachings of the Torah, Maaseh Breshit and Maaseh Merkava. And here on the physical earth, if here on the physical earth their movements were constricted and they had no peace, and they could not walk in the streets and the broad boulevards for fear of the enemy and sudden attack, they hid themselves in the synagogues and the study halls. There they built their nests, their strong fortresses in the upper worlds. There among the angelic hosts and supernal inhabitants, they could walk freely in the streets of the firmament. No one could prevent them or bother them. Their souls were free and they basked in the radiance of the supernal light. This was the advice of Rabbi Yehuda bar Simon. When the Holy One lets a hypocritical and deceitful man, Hitler, rule and take power, 1936, to shake the whole world, or he allows wicked men to rise up to ensnare the Jewish people and cause them to stumble, killers, robbers, thieves, destroyers of civilization. At such a time, it is fitting for men of honor to grow wings and fly in the air, to fly aloft into the upper worlds on the wings of contemplation and profound thought, to seek God, to know God. and the way he supervises and governs his world, from the upper worlds down to our own lower world. Rabbi Yehuda Bar Simon's advice was followed by the great Gaonim, Rabbi Chamai Gaon, Rabbi Hai Gaon, and others. In their days when darkness covered the earth and they were persecuted, and the silent dove, the Jewish nation, could find no rest for her foot for fear of snakes and scorpions. Then in their days as well, they fulfilled the charge, turned to the Tzafon. They gathered congregations together in the houses of learning and unveiled hidden scrolls before them from their secret treasuries, their libraries. From these scrolls, they taught them the deepest secrets of the Torah, secrets which they had received from their teachers. Thus, they engaged the people in the most exalted matters, the hidden secrets of the Master of the world, the Kipshin of the Rahmana. And these were like the balm and the salve for their bones, a healing for all their pains and affliction. There's the Aleph Beta of Rabbi Akiva, the Masechet Atzilut, the Maaseh Bereshit, the Masechet Gan Eden, Pirkei Hechalot, Chabad Moshe, Sefer Yetzira, Midrash Meha Shiloach, Ma'ayan HaChochma, Pirkei Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and the Holy Zohar. So his point here is an amazing thing that Rokeach, Rabbi Eliezer Migarmiza, lived in a time of pogroms. So he brought out into his Beit Midrash to the people who learned with him the deepest secrets of the Torah, because that was their way of turning to the Tzafon when they were being attacked on the outside, to the inner, to the hidden, to the soul matters of what really matters in the world. And then when Rav Kalmar, his son, in 1936, had this incredible idea to republish Rabbi Eliezer Migarmiza's Sefer in the time when Hitler was coming onto the world stage. So his father is praising him. This is exactly what's needed, my son. Because when the world turns against us and everything is dark, the deepest secrets of the Torah have to come out. If anybody asks you, what right do you have to learn these things? Because the world requires it. Because we need to know. Because it strengthens our faith that someone is really in charge. And that above and beyond everything, there's somebody who's really here with us. And it's hidden, but through our refining and sensitizing ourselves to it, we know Hashem more deeply than we could in a million eternities in Gan Eden. Like Hashem is with us in a deep way. So I wanted to share that with you. I'll send it to anybody who wants it. It's a little translation of a piece that I did based on this text from 1936. So what we have today is Rabbi Kaplan is talking about Nevuah. And he goes into this thing he calls the dream center. So the dream center in traditional Jewish texts is called the Koach HaMedameh. The Koach HaMedameh. Medameh. What is Demayon? Imagination. In a lot of this forum, Koach HaMedameh has a bad name. Meaning to say, it is the force within the human psyche that allows people to live in illusion, to have fantasies, to have illusions. Medameh. He's living in a fantasy world. So the idea here in the texts that I bring, first of all, I bring the quote from the first few pages of part 2 of Inner Space. And I made the footnotes very big because I want you to see that that this is what he's drawing from. Like, he didn't just list sources. He actually looked at them. That's why Rabbi Kaplan is a great teacher, because he was an insider of Torah, and he learned in order on the deepest level to connect to Hashem and to the tzaddikim and to the neshamot of the tzaddikim. And so when you're learning somebody's Torah like that, it inspires you to do the same thing. So unlike almost any other author in our generation, so Rav Kaplan was a man of sources. He says, don't take my word for it. What I'm telling you here, I'm giving you the sources that I got this from. I want you to go to look at the sources, and you'll see that more than I could ever express, it's what these sources are saying. I'm just trying to be in between you and the sources, but I'm not trying to block you. I want you to go to the sources. So that's why the footnotes are pretty big. After the first 2 pages, which is from inner space, so then some of the sources, some that are actually mentioned in inner space and some that are actually even not mentioned, but they've come through into my life. So I want you to look at that for a minute on the 3rd page of this set that you have, which says page 1. It says developing the koach medameh. Or at the top it says developing the imaginative faculty, the koach medameh. To develop it, meaning to say, in order to use it for the highest purpose. Why was it given to us? To have fantasies, or to have a deeper connection with Hashem. So I'm giving some sources here in which, even in the Pshat, in the Rambam, in the Gemara, in the Rabbeinu Yonah, it's very clear that you're using your imaginative faculty in your prayers in order to have a deeper experience of prayer. Baal Shem Tov at the bottom of the page, very, very explicitly, how to use your imaginative faculty in prayer. Next page. Shulchan Aruch. 98 with Tzaddik Chet is a famous, one of the most famous simanim in Shulchan Aruch about how the Hasidim Rishonim, the first, what we call the spiritual masters of previous generations, they would mitboded, they would go inside deeply, and they would get to a level called hitpashtuta gashmiyut. That's an amazing thing to say here. What does hitpashtut mean? What is lahafshit? In an animal, when you mafshit an animal, you skin it. It says in Song of Songs, pashatati id kutonti. What does that mean? Pashatati id kutonti. Echa el bashena. I pashatati my malbush. How should I wear it again? What's pashatati mean?
You stripped
I've taken off. I've divested. There's invest. To invest somebody in an office is really actually with clothes. But divest is to take off clothes. So to take off the skin of an animal, something is mufshat. It means it's skinned, but it's abstract. It's abstracted out of its physical form, and it's now the idea itself. It's mitlabesh. It means it comes back into garment, into the metaphor that allows you to get it. All right? So you need to be able to be mafshit, to abstract something out, to divest it of its garment. And you have to be malbish, then you have to be able to put it in all kinds of garments. And then you see, oh, you see, that garment and that garment and that garment, they all say the same thing in different ways. But you see that there's... Okay, so anyway, pashtut gashmiyut is the divestment of the physical in order to come into a deeper state of davening. The Igerat HaKodesh of the Ramban is an incredible meditation by the Ramban in his Igerat HaKodesh, which is about marital relations, but this particular meditation is not about marital relations, but it's in the context of that a man and a wife who have marital relations should know how to meditate. And they should know how to mafshit their thoughts while they're in physical contact with each other, so they can be together not only on their asiya level, not only on their nefesh level, but on their ruach, on their neshama, on their chayim, yechida, that they're joined at every level. Right? That's an amazing concept, and he shows you how to do it. Then I bring from Chaim Vital, in the name of the Ari, how Nevuah works. So you have here Hebrew followed by English in each case. I want to be able to share these with you. Finally, on page 4 of this set, Rav Yitzhak Isaac of Kamarna basically quotes the Ari, he quotes the Shari Kedusha, but he adds some stuff amazing because he was a very inspired, amazing And he writes this in his Perush on Megillat Esther. In the introduction to his Perush on Megillat Esther, he writes about his uncle, the Tzvi Hershel Zilchov, and his relationship with him. And then he writes also that he wrote his Perush on Megillat Esther in 30 days, which is like not normal. And anyway, this is a little part of that. So I want to share with you this idea and then always connect it back into what Rabbi Kaplan's saying of what he's calling the dream center, the ability to have imaginative fantasies or to see images in our mind. So one thing I want to start with is to open the window, and then I want to lead you in a very short little meditation to show you how easy it is to do certain things. So the easy one that I like to share with you is if you'll relax, sit comfortably any way you want to keep your feet. Be aware of how your feet are, if you want them on the floor, if you want them crossed, doesn't matter, but be aware of them. And all the way up to your neck, and whatever tension you're carrying in your neck and your shoulders, which is so typical of many of us. Be aware of being in this amazing body that Hashem has given you. And breathe a few times. Hear the sound outside. So this exercise now is the elasticity of our visual or perceptual field. It's very interesting. So please go with me if you will. Can you picture the front door of the home, or one of the homes, or the favorite home that you grew up in? Should come pretty easily. Maybe not the details, but it's mikum, its place vis-a-vis the entire house, where the entry door, the main entry door of your home was. Anybody raise your hand if you're having trouble seeing this? Just raise your right hand very slightly. And if you're not, then I know that you're pretty much like most of us, that it's not so hard to see the front door. I want you to open the door, put your hand on the handle, and however it's formed, notice whether it's bronze or a doorknob or a kind of a curlicue of some sort, and put the key in or whatever needs to be done to open this big door or small door, and go in and see either the front room, the hallway, the living room, whatever comes first in that real house that you lived in. And now, start walking around your house. Anywhere you want, right, left, straight, kitchen, living room, dining room. If there's a staircase, at one point, go up there. I'll leave you with this for a few minutes because I want you to enjoy it. Something that can be done only without effort. It's just something that happens naturally if you allow it to happen. Carpets, floors, chairs, sofas, tables. They're all there. Everything is there. Even if you're not looking at it, even if you're not in the room where the dining room table is, you know it's there. It's amazing. stored memories, down to the details, even the details that we're not aware of, that we're taking in, but they're all there. Our brain is much, much more sophisticated than we are ever able to know. We're so unaware of how aware we are. So if you wouldn't mind going into your bedroom, if you had one, or shared bedroom, or alone, dressing table, dresser, mirror, drawers, whatever you put your attention to, it's there. Closets, bed, bedspread, pillow. Please stay with us for a few more seconds. You're in the house. Whatever you're doing, you're in the house. You're in the apartment. You're in something. You're in a space. You're surrounded by it. And at one point, whenever you're ready, you could say, you could go out of the house, go back down the stairs, out the door, whatever. And you can always say, I hope I can come back. You can make a little prayer, make more investigation of what you've left behind in those years of your life. But now there's a helicopter waiting for you outside the door. Even if there was no room in the old days, there's plenty of room now for a helicopter in the driveway or wherever. We're making room. You get in the helicopter and start lifting off straight up. See your house beneath you through the glass floor of the helicopter, and see your house in relationship to the houses on its sides and in back of it, the street. Keep going up and up. And when you're ready, open your eyes and we'll talk about what we just did. So, was that work? Did it work more or less? Anybody want to share anything? Of how?
It's amazing the level of detail.
Isn't it?
Unbelievable. Every detail.
You can imagine
Everything.
How much is in here. And if we would go to our school or whatever, or you could have conversations with people, whether they're in this world or not. You have a lot of things. You can use your imagination. You can redo certain things that you did then, and you can
Recharge them.
you can correct things. If you're, it's just, theoretically, it's an open field. And in the house, you're surrounded by the thing that you're looking at, and then when you go up, if we would have even done a little bit more, how to go up, and then what you were inside the house, and now you're outside the house and the whole world become a little tiny thing within a much larger field of perception. Like, wow, that's amazing. I was in that house a second ago, and now I'm not in that house. This is what in one book is brought down as a way of understanding the Tzimtzum, that Hashem could be everywhere, inside the house, inside the world, and the world also could be a little minuscule point vis-a-vis Hashem. And yet he can go inside that and it's a whole world. And yet he's really outside the house and he's inside the house at the same time. It's elasticity of the mind that gives us something of what it means that there's higher realities. Very interesting. So it's much more difficult to deal with the letters of Hashem's names, which is where the Kabbalists go. And they're constantly dwelling on Hashem's names. They see them everywhere. They see gematrias everywhere. Because they practice this. It's like somebody who's just learned to type. So everything they go around, they're already typing every sign they see in their minds. At least that's what I did when I was in junior high school. But gematrias and divine names, especially if you want to see the name of Hashem inside of your forehead, it's not so easy. It's easier to see a ball, to see a house, to see a dog. But when it comes to something like, but what we want to do is to train ourselves with the simple in order to reach up for the more abstract and the more subtle. So let's just take a quick look at what Rabbi Kaplan says. What is prophecy? I'd like to give you an idea of what prophecy is and how it works. What happens when a prophet has a vision? What's the mechanism? The prophet meditates. So that was, there's a few important, things he says here in footnote number 10. Because meditation in Hebrew is what? Is hitbodedut. In, I think last week did we open up meditation in the Bible last week?
You mentioned it, but we didn't.
I was in the last chapter where he says Bad, Beit Dalet. Yeah, I did mention it. Yeah. Beit Dalet. The root of bodedut is bad, and also badad. The badad is in Echa. Echa Yashva Badad, which is a double dalet, which means it's a stronger, how she is sitting alone, how she is alone and isolated, Bat Zion, the daughter of Zion, which is the Yerushalayim, Shechina, everything in Am Yisrael. How we in exile, we're all bedad, we're all alone. And so hitbodedut is not just physical alone. He says here, it's self-isolation, physical isolation. In addition to that, it's mental isolation. So everybody knows this. This is already, everybody knows what hitbodedut is, but this is where he brings all the sources. He does not mention Rabbi Nachman here. He mentions it later in footnote number 14, where we can see that also, Bezat Hashem, Rabbi Nachman's what should we call it? Rabbi Nachman's explanation, clarification, in-depth instructions for how to do hitbodedut, which he does. We also mentioned this last week. Did not only self-isolation or the self from the mind, but the essence from all the layers of my external life. Dissociation to the point of not even knowing who I am. That's being mufshat, mafshit, taking myself and undressing myself from all the outer layers, so that when I come back in again into all the layers of my life, I come back with more essence. The prophet goes away from the world, goes up to the top of a mountain. He has nevuah. He has an incredible unitary experience. He comes back down in order to be with his people, to bring that level of consciousness back into all the shichvot, all of the layers of his people. Always by us, we go up and into the unitary experience in order to come back down and out with all the layers of our own existence and relationships with others in order to, spirituality should permeate the entire world. The whole purpose of going away and coming back. And they both are purposeful. They both exist for each other, but they also exist in and of themselves. It's so important to be involved with people, but to bring higher consciousness to people. In order to do that, we have to be able to be alone, which in our generation is coming back into style with mindfulness, but it's still a game, because I can think that I'm doing mindfulness and really not be doing it, or not be doing the deeper work that's being called for. So we'll talk more about that, of what the depth of Hitbodedut leads to, and the tikkun hamidot, the tikkun of the personality, the transformation ultimately of the human personality into being who we are potentially capable of being. What Yisrael means, why Yaakov Abinu became Yisrael when he had one of his most powerful prophetic experiences, when he fought with an angel all night. And he fought with an angel all night on every level of his soul. Some say he fought physically as well, but there's nobody who disagrees with the fact that he fought psychologically and spiritually until the dawn of the morning. And then he became Yisrael, Yashar El, straight to God. He became the embodiment of what we're connected to. Okay, I'll go on. All prophecy comes from meditation. Meditation calms those parts of the mind that deal with the real world and in our normal state of consciousness. Hence, our imagination, our reverie, and all the noise in our mind are gently pushed away. Then our consciousness is opened up to the parts of our mind which deal with higher things, the intuitive parts of the mind which are sensitive to spiritual and perhaps even parapsychological phenomena. This is why parapsychological phenomena are enhanced through meditation. According to the Ramban, in other words, if you're married, you know what your husband is thinking even before he says it. It's called parapsychological phenomena. It's supposed to be a joke, but it's a serious joke. Is that when you get older and you're married after 30, 40, and 50 years, it gets really good. And you really enjoy being married. And it's not a hype, it really is true. And you really understand how awesome and important it is to work together with your spouse. And to refine yourself enough to be able to not be an egotist and to not always want everything your way, to want the best for that other person who loves you. And then you love them and they love you, and love grows. So that's also a little bit of what Nevuah is about. Right? According to the Ramban, through meditation, people may actually have perceptions of the future or see things that are very far away, okay? Yet the human mind is also capable of experiencing and perceiving the spiritual, and it's this power that is especially enhanced through meditation. So I quoted a bit, he really packed it in. So what do we get from this? Sensitivity, openness to higher parts of the mind. Right? Who wouldn't want that? Experiencing and perceiving the spiritual. Scary, but it's interesting enough that I'm willing to overcome my fear and say, hey, what is this about? See, we have a catchword in Judaism called Hashem. And in a sense, names are very nice, but in another sense, they also cover up from the thing that we're actually referring to. And you have to go through the layers to get back to what Hashem really means. It's much deeper than some entity that's out there somewhere. It's Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, it's existence itself. It's also called Havaya, being. So meditation allows you to get back into sensitive places where you realize that you've been living on the outside. When you say a bracha, and you realize, I've said thousands of brachas, and I never even understood what it meant, right? So meditation, that's what meditation is supposed to do to help us. My theory is that meditation has to be practiced in and of itself in order that when we then pray and we say the words that are given to us in the prayers, that there's an incredible marriage. But you can't learn meditation from the prayers. The theory is that the prayers themselves were created by people who meditated, who had experiences, who experienced pokeach ivrim, that you open my eyes. You open my eyes, meaning physically and figuratively, right? They experienced the incredible thing, what it means to open our eyes. In the Baal Shem Tov's teachings, based on the Zohar, there's an incredible concept called Chizu Dehai Alma, the apparent illusion of this world. Chizu is appearance, a world of appearances. So the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Nachman, they all talk about atzimat einayim, closing your eyes, even strong. Like Rabbi Nachman is into extremes. Right? Close your eyes really strong because you want to get to close off the achizat einayim of this world, the illusion or the illusory appearance of a world that exists out there that hides God. You want to go inside and connect to the real, right? So you have to start to become explorer of your own inner world, which again, as much as people talk about it, I'm not sure how much we're all doing it, but let's give the benefit of the doubt. We're all moving towards being much, much more inner in our generation. Let's hope that it's true. Let's hope that the computer, which is really what it is an extension of the human brain, that its purpose is to allow me to bring that back in and to access things which have become atrophied that are now externalized in a computer, which gives me access to the www, right? But it's all external. But once it was internal. So this external contraption here should really, its purpose is to reconnect me with what I used to have inside of me. It's the re-internalization of technology that originally was inside of us. We were prophets. We could fly into higher spheres. We had telescopic vision. We had incredible stuff. And then it all became lost. And it's all locked up in our, right, in what Eric Fromm calls the work of our hands that we bow to. We bow to the work of our hands. So, and they're really, in order for us to have an easier life, but what happens is they become idolatries. They lock our energy. And so we have to retrieve our energy from the things that we've created to have a deeper and more richer inner life. So again, meditation is the pulling back. Shabbos is the pulling back, unplugging myself from the external so I can have a rich inner life. But if I find that my inner life is like, I don't know what to do with it, and I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't know how to do this, or even if I want an inner life and I really am ready, but if I'm left to my own, I can follow a meditation when somebody else is leading me. But what do I do when I'm alone in my room? And that's right, stops most people. So we're going to try and break through that. Those barriers inside of ourselves. We'll come back to Rabbi Kaplan. Let's go to this amazing text on page 1 of the Developing the Imaginative Faculty. There's a Gemara in Yevamot. There's a Mitpalel tzrich shiten einav lamata v'libo lamala. One who prays should direct his eyes downward. V'libo lamala, and his heart should be above. So, in the Gemara in Brachot, at the end of the regular Gemara, there's the Gemara called the Rif. And the Rif, as opposed to the Rambam abstracted out the halachot from the Gemara and created his own categories, right? Mishnah Torah. The Rif, what he did is he took the Gemara and he just paired. He took out what was not halachically what he held, right, and left what he held as the most important parts of the Gemara, and that's when we know that the Rif paskins this way because he brought this Gemara and this particular thing. So on the Rif is the Rabbeinu Yonah. So the Rif brings this Gemara from Yevamot. He brings it actually in Berachot, page 22b in Berachot of the Rif. Don't get confused. But the Rabbeinu Yonah on the side starts out with the word tzarich in big, bold print. 22b in the Rif, in Berachot. I should have put that in here. So he says, tzarich. Tzarich she'iten einav lemata v'libo lama'ala. You got to direct your eyes below and your heart above. Klomar. He says, what does this mean? In other words, she'achshov belibo, that you should think or contemplate or visualize in your heart, ki'ilu omed b'shamayim, as if you're standing in heaven. This was huge for me. You mean I'm allowed to do that? I mean, my best moments in davening is when I go up. And I'm not going anywhere, I'm still here. And yet I'm using my koach medameh. One of the things I do is I call out the names of people who I knew in this lifetime who are already passed away in my head. Very subtly. I call my mother's name, my father's name, my brother, my oldest brother. Then I call the rabbis that I've known in this lifetime. And I just wait and take my time. And then I become like, I love Rachel, and I love Moshe, and I love David, and I love Yosef. I just call their names in my mind, and I allow it to just sit there. And I know as a fact, as a spiritual fact that can't be proven, I know that all the generations in Shemayim exist in one time span. Only down here, there's compartmentalization of time, right? So I know that when I go into this space, I know that I'm with everybody. And I allow myself this, it says here that I'm allowed to do this. Like, what's heaven? It's just a bunch of gardens and flowers, maybe even some angels. The most important part of heaven is neshamot, is souls. Souls who have lived here on this planet and who became great and who are upstairs, and we are their children and their grandchildren, and they care for us. So meditation is to connect to Hashem and to connect to his tzaddikim. Not in some abstract sense, but in the sense of love, of that they love me and I love them, and I want to meet them and I want to know them in eternity. And I want to connect my life to them, and I want to be empowered by them and their teachings. And I want to be true to their teachings and not to be a faker. Right? And this is all part of my prayer and their names and everything. So, yachshov belibo, think in your heart, visualize in your heart, or however you do it, ki'ilu omed b'shamayim, like you're standing in heaven. V'yasir milibo kol tanuge olam hazeh b'kol hanaot haguf. And remove from your lev all thoughts of worldly enjoyments and physical pleasures, which you're going to see also later on in Rabbi Chaim Vital saying similar things, the Baal Shem Tov saying similar things, each one in his own way, because it's really a well-trodden path. It's not, I don't hate this world because I know I have to come back to this world. But I'm able to leave this world in my hitbodedut and go up into my shoresh neshama, to my soul root, in order to get connected, to get, what do you call it? It's the gas station of my life. It's like, that's where I refuel. And if it's seen like that, and I use my imagination to empower it, to even make it better, then when I come back down into this life, I'm empowered to be able to be in this world in a way that Hashem wants me to be in this world. This is what the ancients meant when they spoke about divesting. Remember we spoke about that? Divesting your body from your soul, like removing a garment from your body. in order to attain complete concentration in prayer. So it's in Hebrew, it's ki'inyan she'amru ha'kadmonim, kishetirtze lechaven pshot gufcha me'al nishmatcha. Take off, remove, divest your body from your soul. All this is imagination, because we can't do it. It's just like it's something we can do. It's not something we can do. But you, just like you saw your house, right? And you went into your house and then you came out of your house, right? You can imagine yourself coming out of your body. And then you're going to come back to it, so it's going to be cool. Right? In the Zohar, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai goes on 11-day excursion with his Talmidim to the Shemayim. 11 days. Nobody has ever told me what they did with their bodies. My theory is that every once in a while they came back and drank something, and then they went up again. What do you mean went up? How do you go up? Moshe Rabbeinu went into an Anan, and he was there for 6 days, Rashi says. It's the end of Parashat Mishpatim. He was there for 6 days. Hashem kind of did something to the molecules of his body, and then he was able to go up, not just to the top of Sinai, but to Shemayim. And there's like amazing things in the Gemara and Shabbos 88b, and in the Zohar and Parashat, one of the Parashiot in Zohar, where Moshe meets angels on the way up, and it's like frightening to meet angels, because they're supposed to come to you and make you like really afraid. But when you say the right thing, they become your friends, and they go to the next angel, and the next angel. Like there's like reams of stuff that we have in our tradition about how to get upstairs and what to do when you're there. So what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai did, nobody knows exactly how it worked. Rabbi Akiva with the 4 who went into Pardes, and only Rabbi Akiva went in peace and came out in peace. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, though, he was able to go on an 11-day excursion. He went up into the upper dimension just above ours and learned Torah there. So it's in the Zohar. I'm just saying that what happens eventually is that even though from down here all we're doing is imagining that we're going up, we're using our imagination to approximate something that's actually true. But there's nothing we can do except imagine it. But we know that our imagination is just imagination. But we know, on the other hand, that when it comes down to it, what Judaism is telling us is that that's the real world, and this is the movie. So a lot of things happen through this type of meditation. It's like crazy. He's going to go into Ezekiel, and he's going to go into all these things. So how do you deal with inner space? It's been out since 1990. It's now 10, 20, 26 years since Inner Space was published. What do you do with this book? He's a Talmid Chacham who brings serious sources to bear on what consciousness is all about. So,
can I just
please.
The experience that you just described. So it seems to me like and people on this level, some of when they ascend, what attaches them to the body, even though that we described it, actually they would come down to drink or eat.
I don't know. There was just like
feels to me like
speculation.
It's almost like a dangerous.
Yeah.
You're really stepping into the sea, like, and the danger would be that we just, I guess, drift away and not come back. It seems to me that these great people, including Moshe Rabbeinu, the fact that there was Am Yisrael down below, down the mountain, and he needs to bring that experience down, that's going to be drawing him back. Otherwise, he just probably to carry on.
Me ten the ever kayona.
Right.
Go ahead, though, first.
Right. So my feeling is, without bringing in any other, I feel I need to mention this. That in shamanism, for example, the drum is very important because the drum keeps the shaman actually down here. So he's going doing all kinds of things, which is and with prophecy as we know, but Hashem something else entirely. I go. You know, but there is that idea something has to ground he who is having the vision. So my question to you would be, as an individual, how would one do that in a safe way? I mean, I'm not going to want about it. You've got to be able to. The point is to bring it down. I mean, you have to be able to come back. Otherwise, you can't just go and get lost up there. So the question
Very
is,
important.
How
Just one thing that came to mind as you're talking, they told me that when the Bavcha Rebbe used to do for bringing, he had a handkerchief on his hand like this, and he put his hand up against the bottom of the table where he was sitting and was pressing the entire time that he was talking. That's what I heard. I don't know. To stay in this world, right? Huh? A lot of stories like that? Okay, fine. Oh my goodness. So how do you stay in this world? Some of us, we don't have that problem because we're very connected here. Even some of the deeper things, there's an intention in the Ari that the Ari explains more and better than anybody else called Mesiut Nefesh, the willingness and the willingness to give up my life on Kiddush Hashem, to sanctify Hashem's name in meditation. So there's a whole thing, I've written about it, before deaths, accepting the four deaths. There's the almost like being on the bus with people who are being hurt, dying, going there in your mind, being in the situation and willing to die because you know that they've just died and you're honoring them. What I want to say here is that in one of this most important kavanot that I do, Mesiut Nefesh, on certain words in the davening, in certain places where I take a lot of time, where I say to Hashem, I'm willing to die if necessary. And it says in the books, Yechaven limsor nafsho kiddush Hashem bikavel alav arba mitot bedin, intend to give up your life for the sanctification of Hashem's name and to receive upon yourself the 4 death penalties. But I think it's very important to add, it's not because I don't love my life. I love my life. I love what you've given me. And I want to live in this world with the consciousness that you want me to have. It's called Leman Chai Elohim Chaim, for your sake, O God of life. That I want to live. If necessary, I'm willing. And it says in Halacha, if you do this, it is as if you've actually died. You've died the ego death. You've died to the little self. You've connected to the big self. This is a number of elements here in this kavana. But it's grounded in appreciation and a thankfulness for what Hashem has given us. And that there's no issue that I want to leave here. I just want to be able to clear whatever's stopping me from connecting to you and to be able to come back into my life in the most powerful way. So with that kind of background, meditation is going to always bring us back to a healthy relationship with our life. This is what Hashem wants us to be, where He wants us to be, and what He wants us to be. This is where He put us to do the best we can within the framework that we live in. Thank you. There's more on the Rabbeinu Yonah. There's all these special things. It's a shame to rush through these things. These things are to be read and reread and savored. So let's finish the Rabbeinu Yonah for the moment. Where does he go? Where does he go with this? He just told us that the ancients, when you're standing in heaven, using your machshava to be able to think about that, you want to stand in heaven. You want your heart to be above, the Gemara says, and that means that you want to imagine yourself above this world, above physicality, which we don't know what it looks like. So what I did was I learned a lot from near-death experiences. both those that are written in English and those that are written in Hebrew. And some very important information is given there, which helps you to understand how to visualize yourself in the upper world in a meaningful and realistic way, right? So we can talk more about that. I'll use information to help me to know what to visualize and how to visualize it, because I want to put myself in a certain place and I want to be able to get the most out of it that I can. So I need information.
But can't sometimes, if you get into a state, you can actually get a visualization that you didn't think
That
of?
you didn't think of?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah. Yes.
So that's okay also if it comes that way?
Well, again, there's some really sensitive issues here. Men, from my experience, are much more limited in this area than women. I'm connected to what I've learned, which has a very good, important aspect. I go by the Ari, I go by the Baal Shem Tov, I go by the Ramchal, I go what they told me and I internalize it, and that's my life. So I'm, in a sense, I'm doing a very great thing, but on the other hand, I'm not as open. With what they've given to me, I can be creative. But there's something that that women have that can be developed that I don't even have a good word for, but it's maybe the intuitive sense, and you have to work on yourself in your way, from what you know. And what are the most important things that are important to you in your relationship to Hashem and into relationship with the Imahot, and how to nurture that? What do you need to do? And I'd like to hear, what does a woman need to do that it shouldn't be such an intellectual thing with ideas and concepts, but much more something else we call feeling or whatever.
I mean, my question is yeah, so if there's a legitimacy, like you're meditating on one of the Imahot or on one of the first words in the first paragraph of Shemona Esrei, yeah? And you just are concentrating on that word and you get a feeling or a color or something coming to you, that's legitimate if that's what happens to you?
Yes. I mean, who am I to say, but I've been doing a lot of work in the Baal Shem Tov in the last 4 or 5 months. And there's explicit things about what you're just saying. So if you wouldn't mind writing me an email, I'll send you the explicit things that he says, and you can look at them and we can talk about them. I am only here in order to open up sources for everybody. Okay. So he says that you're doing this, your pashot gufta, you've taken off your body again in your imagination. Once you've attained this thought, can you find where I am? The line starts once. It's 5th line from the top of this paragraph that we're reading on page 1. Once you've attained this thought, i.e., once you're able to imagine yourself above this world in the spiritual dimension, which is no small thing, but it's not as hard, on the other hand, as you might think. So then yachshov, which means think, but it means more use your imaginative faculty, see yourself standing in the Beit HaMikdash, which is below in this world. You've gotten up to heaven. It's very interesting. You're standing in this room down here or this synagogue, all right, and you imagine yourself in heaven. And heaven, and it varies. I mean, Isaiah chapter 6 is Isaiah goes up and he sees himself in the Beit HaMikdash, and he sees Hashem on a throne, and he sees angels and stuff, right? Beit HaMikdash, Shemayim, throne. These are prophetic images. God is not an old man with a white beard, but you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. The old man with a white beard and the old lady with a white hair, they're very important images. Don't say, right? Shalom Ori. Yeah, no, thanks so much for coming. So, Yeshaya, who sees Hashem Yoshev al Kisei Ram B'Nisa, he says Hashem sitting on a throne. And it's all what's called prophetic vision, which is a whole thing I've tried to understand this for years. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm still on the outside. There's Rambans and there's Rabbeinu Bachia and there's Malbims and there's like amazing stuff of what does it mean to see a vision. It's not a simple thing by us. At any rate, you're up in heaven. Now, Rabbeinu Yonah, you're here and you're imagining you're in heaven, and Rabbeinu Yonah says, now imagine yourself in the Beit HaMikdash below. Like, I'm already here below, but I went up and I want to see myself down here below. And what I want to see myself in is, I thought I was in a synagogue. I'm in the Beit HaMikdash. Look at it, look what he says. Once you've attained this thought, once you're able to imagine yourself above this world in the spiritual dimension, visualize yourself standing in the Beit HaMikdash, which is below in this world. In other words, you have to say that what he means is that where you are right now has been transformed. What you thought were just a mundane reality, that you're in your room. But really, the consciousness that you're bringing down Shemayim is allowing you to see that you are in Beit Mikdash consciousness, that the world is different because you're up in Shemayim at the same time that you're down here. It's not normal what he's saying. And just a halachic guy, right, Rabbeinu Yonah, he wrote this terrible book called Shari Tshuva. Oh my goodness, look what he's saying. In this way, i.e. by imagining that you're standing above in heaven, and at the same time maintaining the consciousness of heaven down here below, in the very place where heaven is most revealed, actually I should have said most hidden. You're maintaining the consciousness of heaven down here below, in the very place where heaven is most hidden. I don't know why I put revealed. Right. Oh, that's what I meant. Okay, but so it's interesting though, right? Because down here in this world, this is where it's most hidden, but Beit HaMikdash is where it's supposed to reveal. So it's whoa. So your prayer will be most cherished. He becomes very pshat at this moment. He's taken us into this incredible place where we're up in the heaven at the same time that we're down here on the earth. And your prayer will be most cherished. Why would my prayer become most cherished? Because of this incredible acrobatic thing that I just did. I used to just use my imagination. I went to Disneyland in my mind. And then I realized that I'm not in Disneyland, I'm here.
That's the essence of why we're in this world. It's the whole point. Okay. That's why your prayer's cherished. You know what I mean? You got it for whatever second. It's the whole point.
This is the meaning of the Talmud's double directive. Lower your eyes downward, but direct your heart above. Be in two places at the same time. And then join them so that it's not two places. It is heaven on earth, right here, right now, because I'm connected to you, Hashem. I'm up, I'm down, it doesn't matter. The connection has been made. Once I'm connected by having gone up, then coming back down is not a disconnect. It's the real thing. It's bringing it down into my life. I get so much from this, I tell you. So look at it yourselves and enjoy the process. Then there's this Rambam right next to it, right below that. Stand with your feet together, lower your eyes as if you're staring at the earth. That's interesting. Or the ground. You mean it's in Hebrew, it's aretz. It could be ground, earth. But clear, empty, free your lev to ascend above as if you're standing in heaven. They're all going on the same Gemara in Yevamot, that you need to stand in heaven when you're in davening. Place your left hand over your solar plexus and cover it with your right hand and stand like a servant in the presence of his master.
You're supposed to stand like that in prayer?
Well, just a second. There's a number of variations, but it's definitely like this. And there's one specific one where it says, don't have your thumb from your right hand in your left hand, but have your thumb from your right hand inside and your thumb from your left hand inside, and have them now cup over each other. Now, it can be like this, or it can be more flat, and you can actually apply pressure, or soft, cupped, but it is right over left. And so what that's the main thing here. What's right over left mean? What does the mean? Huh? Chesed covering and embracing din. Sweetening judgment. Gover, overcoming judgment, because left represents judgment.
The idea of having to hold your hands there, though, to get into a relaxed state, it's hard.
It's not easy, and therefore you can break it if you want. If you want to, sure.
To get into
it's a recommendation.
What?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, it's just easier to relax when you're not having to hold yourself in a physical position.
Yeah,
it's
so
much harder.
You can move if you want. Once in a while, if you come back here and it becomes normalized, it becomes the most natural, because it's also bringing your extremities into middle, right? It's bringing your chesed and your gevura into tiferet. So there is something to it.
It's
and
centering.
It's a centering. It's not facing in extremities outwards. It's bringing my extremities in, right? So there is something to it. It also can be it can be a humble thing like this, or it could be a military thing with power. This is your power spot. This is your solar plexus. So it doesn't have to be that you're like this. You could be totally like this and strong, like man. And so it doesn't have only the meaning of, oh, I can't do anything. It means I am empowered by whatever you want me to do, Hashem. I bow down to you, and you tell me to stand up, and I stand up straight with everything I have.
It's a channeling, though, doesn't it? It can be that power of channeling.
So it's a lot of things. When you pay attention to little things like this, you understand. The Torah of it comes out to you. It reveals itself to you. The meaning of bowing, that you bow in stages, and you bow your body, and then you bow your head, and then you come up, and Ashkenazim come up first, and Sephardim come up with the head last, and they're both meaningful. Did I ever send you my chapter on the mystery of bowing? If all you have to do is write to me and ask me, and I'll do it. It's so interesting. Okay.
Can you reflect your heart, like he's talking here? Can you reflect your heart up by?
You can cup your hands if you want, right? I think variations are wonderful, and there are certain moments when it's more appropriate to do one and more appropriate to the other, and even within the same prayer, like be open to the possibilities. But the hands that I have here, which are my instruments of action, right, are so important where I put them. The Mekubalim for sure say, do not daven like this. Don't go there. And in general, don't hold your hands behind. Have your hands always from here forward, even if you have to have them in your pockets. But back, right? Even when they do Netilat Yadayim, they don't go like this. Whatever. They're like, they make what I call a palm tree. It's called Kol Achorehem Baita. All of their backsides are in. And it's based on a verse where the 12 oxen, all of their buttocks, all their backsides are facing in, and their heads are facing out. So that's the verse. And the verse is applied to how we lift up our hands with Netilat Yadayim. We wash our hands, we do a little bit of this, and we lift them up, and we bring our Achoraim, these are called kubdus in Kabbalah, our elbows, whatever it is. And we bring them in, and we make a palm tree. But the main thing is don't hold them out. Even the Kohanim, when they do it, the Ari suggested that they hold their hands this way, which most people don't know, because you never look under the talit. But even those who do it this way, be careful that their arms should be facing in, even if they do this. Okay, so all these details are not meant to cover over the essence, but they're meant that when I get essence, that I want to manifest and express essence, in the details of my life, where it becomes important to me where I'm holding my hands. And of course, the idea of washing our hands and then bringing up to our forehead or our eyes is like we're zapping our hands with energy from here. And now they're going to go back down to the world and do what they need to do, and they're going to be soldiers following the commander's orders. That's why we wash them, bring them up here, and now they're free. But they're free, but because they have a command. They know what there's a lot of Judaism is the relationship between the higher will and my lower will. And by aligning myself with my higher will so that I can become more aligned to the higher will itself.
And that's just as a centering thing. The difference between this and this, what's the significance?
So if we do this at all, ever, it's always that the right hand a little bit higher. We will not ever, you'll never see, I don't think, a Jew equalizing the right and the left.
Right.
Either it's like this or it's like this. And this we don't do for some reason. We don't do that. But we hardly even ever do this.
I'm saying that it's done more.
That's an Eastern, in East, they do
as
that.
a centering thing, combining two energies. So what does, I guess the advantage of this is the right over the left?
Yeah, in Parshat Korach, the Zohar in Parshat Korach is all about right over left. And that Korach wanted to bring left over right. And so it's like, all the teaching of right over left is in Parshat Korach and the Zohar. So a lot of it, it's really nice stuff. It's rich, and I hope that we can go on. And I think we did, when you get into a text like this and you allow it to open up, then you can go back to Rabbi Kaplan, because that's where he's coming from. He's coming from a love of, like, I heard that when he was 12 and a half is when he started, 13, 12, just in that time he started learning in a place called Torah V'dat in Brooklyn.
At 13, wow.
Yeah, his father was not religious, his mother passed away, and a Hasidic family took him under their wings, and they said, we want to put you in a Jewish school. So the first year it was hard. He was in a class with younger kids, and that summer, after a whole year, and he had to go and have an operation, a slight operation, and he asked to have a Chumash with Rashi, a Mishnayot, and a Hebrew Yiddish dictionary. And by the end of the summer, when he went back into school, he was in the kids with his own age group, and he started to show, and they started to see, this guy's a genius. He knew Yiddish, right? And then I like a lot of the time that he spent. Esther, 1 second, I'm finishing the class. 1 second. You want to hear what I have to say? He spent a lot of time in the library looking at books that other people didn't, whereas like he would learn whatever they're learning in yeshiva in the first few weeks, and he spent a lot of time in the library looking at books that other people don't look at. So he was very, very much like, what's going on here? Hashem, please help me get this stuff. Yes. Okay, great, I'll pick you up. Okay, I'll call you. Bye. So, B'ezat Hashem, B'simcha, Adar is here, although we had a tragedy, but we tried to go up into the upper worlds, into the tzafon, into the hidden, in order to connect with Hashem. He says here that when you do this is one more thing. In these awesome days, we too should fulfill the charge of Rabbi Yehuda Bar Simon. Turn to the tzafon. O Israel, when you are surrounded by enemies on all sides, we have no choice but to grow wings. When we are surrounded by enemies on all sides, we have no choice but to grow wings and fly in the air, in the upper worlds, as our ancestors did in their days, to quiet our stormy spirits, so as not to harbor complaints against the way the blessed Creator governs the world, but to understand, on the contrary, that it is precisely in this way that God brings about the greatest good for creation. It's hard after something like this happens, but after all these tragedies, but we have to strengthen ourselves. Yes.
Is there Kabbalistic significance? Some people second and fourth fingers are very different size.
I don't know if the significance of the fourth and the worst thing,
Second and the fourth.
these two,
Uh,
the second and the fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They're supposed to be the same size.
Some people have it the same, and some people really is noticeably different.
I once looked at my feet and I said, this must be from a different person. I have, like, for a basketball player, I had the smallest hands and smallest feet on my team. Of course, I could not be a Steph Curry. If anybody knows Steph Curry, wow, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And he's just my height. And he's playing against the biggest guys, and he's like unbelievable. But anyway, I was not great, but I was very short, and I have hands I can't even hold a basketball in one hand. And so I have like hands that are from somebody else. That's what I used to think. But I know they're mine now. Okay. Everybody, please, Hashem bless us. Write down your names, your emails. Send me emails if you want something personally from me. If you don't, it shows you don't care about me. That's the show. Okay.